Name number 1 on your list is?
Darren York still.
Okay. Let's talk
So
through
name
it.
number 1 on my list last time in December was Darren York. He comes from Carolina. As much as I hate the Carolina Hurricanes for beating us in the playoffs every year, they've done a lot right. Their owner is horrendous, but they've shown that they're able to identify talent. Their prospect pool is routinely one of the best. They're able to identify the talent and bring them in and put them in a winning position. Now, they haven't been identify game breakers in terms of elite superstars, but they are consistently good year over year. They're really good at managing the cap as well. So to me, Darren York checks a lot of boxes.
Okay, so I'm glad you started with a Carolina Hurricane name because this is a good anecdote for this. So
okay,
my buddy Tyler, who you know, I need to borrow his truck because I did some work outside. He has a pickup truck, so I was like, I need to go to Lowe's and I need your truck to carry some of the wood that I needed. So,
don't you also have a pickup truck?
Yeah, but his bed's longer.
Okay.
He has a full size. Mine's a mid-sized truck, so he has the longer bed, and the wood wasn't going to fit in my bed. Anyway, moral of the story: after we finished what we had to do outside, we came in and watched the end of the Devils and Hurricanes game. And he's a big sports fan, but a casual hockey fan. He doesn't know a ton about it, but anytime like he's over and we watch, like he enjoys it. But he said to me, because we watched Carolina go up 3-1, he's like, man, Carolina seems like they're good every year. And I'm like, yes. So if that's what a casual hockey fan is coming up with, or just a casual sports fan who like keeps tabs on the league, is like, wow, that Carolina team, like they're just always relevant. I'm like, yeah. So picking from that tree makes a ton of freaking sense.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. And their pro scouting is pretty good, right? It's usually pretty good. They kind of whiffed it of late. Like the Jake Gensel one really kind of stinks. The Mikko Rantanen kind of stinks as well. But outside of that, it has been pretty good. But those two moves kind of breed into something new in Carolina, where Darren York isn't necessarily new in Carolina. So you can't fault it for those necessarily. Don't knock my guy, everyone.
No, and that's one thing that happened this year. There's also, multiple years of success before that.
Exactly. So that's kind of why I'm leaning that way. It's going to be almost a theme for my guys. They're going to be new to the role as a general manager, right? Which I think maybe I can get into that a little bit later. An important element in John Collins's search for a GM, I think, and maybe we can get into that later. Maybe we put a pin in that as to why I believe that. But
I like that. I think we give our names and then get into Collins and what he might be looking for at the end, and so that might kind of mesh with some of our names too. I think if we're on the same page here, which we usually are. Yeah. My first name, I'm going to give you one that I gave you the last time as well, and that's Scott White. So he's the assistant GM for the Dallas Stars. He's 57 years old. He's been the GM of the AHL team of the Stars since 2009. So he's had that role for a long time. And he's been the director of hockey ops in Dallas since 2013. Dallas, to me, over the last 10 years or so, is just another like consistently good team. They made the playoffs in 8 of the 12 years that he's been there. 3 straight 100-point seasons. They had the Cup final appearance in 2020. I know they haven't gotten over the hump, and you can make the same case about the Carolina Hurricanes for Mitch's guy. But the point that I wanted to bring up that I think is appropriate for both White and York is that, yes, obviously the goal is to win a championship, and I want the Islanders to win a championship, but sustained success is something that I'm looking at also. So I think that fits the bill for both of our guys here to get us started.
Yeah, absolutely. Like being able to sustain success to me is more important than, maybe not more important. Obviously I want to win Stanley Cups, but I think it's harder to sustain success than it is to win a Stanley Cup. As hard as it is to win a Stanley Cup, it could be such a crapshoot that you just might get lucky one year. You just don't do anything, and you just like the Florida Panthers almost won it as an 8 seed the other 3 years ago.
Yeah,
right. Because the Pittsburgh Penguins defeated or lost to the Chicago Blackhawks. The only reason they even made the Stanley Cup and then made it to the finals that year. Winning a Stanley Cup can be an accident, whereas sustained success is very much not. And so being able to do that, I think, is a bigger barometer of how do I want a bigger quality? There you go. Bigger hiring quality than I want a cup. Check. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because the last GM the Islanders had a Stanley Cup, champion as well. And I know we were going to say save some of the names for a later date, but like that kind of fits like the Ken Holland one. Okay,
Yeah.
he won a Stanley Cup 30 years ago or 25 years ago, whatever. What's that doing for me in 2025?
He had control of the best player of the game in the game, and still couldn't do it. Still couldn't win a Stanley Cup. Sure, maybe you can say sustained success, but like he also didn't draft Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl either. So
No, wasn't able to do enough with the core that he had.
yeah. My next one is from Minnesota. And again, new guy necessarily in a GM spot, but it's Matt Sells. And I've brought him up before. And of course, the Minnesota Wild don't have that same sustained success that we talked about with like Carolina, for example. Although they've made the playoffs often enough and frequently enough, they have not gone far in said playoffs. That's for damn sure. They're basically the Toronto Maple Leafs of the East, or the West, I should say, without the massive payroll. But this guy's been director of analytics since 2019, and then moved up recently to vice president of hockey strategy just last year, which is when you can kind of see the turnaround going in Minnesota, right? Like going from just an okay team to a really good team. And of course, they barely made the playoffs that one year, or they just missed out last year. But they had significant injuries, like Kirill Kaprizov missed most of the season. Now he's a full-fledged assistant general manager, and this team is friggin' flying. With some of the moves that they have made in picking up Boldy, Rossi, Zev Boynum, Brock Faber, and Gustafsson as well in nets, that has been an inspiring pickup by them to find Gustafsson and put him in net. Of course, I'm not saying he and he alone is responsible for that, but it seems that he's got a big part to play in it, as you can see in his almost meteoric ascension over the last 3 years with Bill Guerin in charge.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it since the time he's been there, year one, 558 points percentage, then 670, 689, 628, 530 last year. They finished with 87 points, and then back up to 591 this year.
Right. So like, and of course, Bill Guerin has been a GM in Minnesota since he's been there. So Bill Guerin brought him in with him, it would seem. But as he moves up to like president of hockey operations in 23-24, you can see that he's bringing his guy up with him. So I don't know. To me, this is a guy that, based off of what I've seen the team that he's working on or working with, he has done well, and he seems to have the CV. Obviously, we'll see what he actually gives the Islanders in terms of a CV and what he wants to do with this team. But judging what the Minnesota Wild are doing and the how they're the type of players that they're bringing in and the strategy they're trying to use, seems like something we could do, man, or should be doing.
The approach.
Yes.
Yeah, you're kind of in line with the approach, which I think is a good start here. My next one is Matthew Darche, the 48-year-old director of hockey operations of the Tampa Bay Lightning since 2019. 2 Stanley Cups, another trip to the Stanley Cup final. They had a couple of down years, although they did still make the playoffs, right? And then are now back to being a legitimate, cup threat, 102 points. I don't know if they'll get out of the first round, which I know you're going to maybe scratch your head after me saying they're a legitimate cup threat and might not get out of the first round. But Tampa Bay and Florida, like that's maybe 2 of the best teams in the East going at it in round 1. So, tough draw there for them. But, another team that, when looking at sustained success, how can you not bring up the Tampa Bay Lightning over the last you want to go back 15 years? How long do you want to go back?
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.